My name is Powermalu, born and raised in the Lower East Side. I'm a New Yorican. My parents are from Puerto Rico. My mom is from Camuy. My dad is from Santurce.
Mm.
So I'm proud to be a New Yorican. Grew up in the Lower East Side, traveled around the world. Luckily for me, at an early age, I was introduced to music and running. And both of those platforms have afforded me the opportunity to travel on other people's dime and see the world and connect with people from around the world and kind of show more of our similarities than our differences.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So
So,
I'm an artist, athlete, activist.
Mm.
during your journey as as a child and traveling and learning from your parents, what was one of the major things that you have learned through childhood and and where you are now?
So even as young as 11, 12 years old, I was part of the boys club. So
Mm-hmm.
it allowed me to connect with a lot of people in my community that a lot of times you wouldn't be able to connect because it'd be like, oh, you from over there. We don't
Mm.
get along with that group that's from over there and vice versa. But for me, I was able to connect with a lot of people through the boys club and then even further that relationship by just going to those neighborhoods and connecting with people. And by default, I became kind of like a mediator of sorts because
Mm,
then people that had issues with other people by default, because I was friends with them, they would kind of see me in the park and they will all like connect in that way. And
Mm.
that has happened all throughout my life. Like it was
Mm.
just like something that it was organic for me. And then I started like learning how can I develop that into something that's even more powerful.
mm,
And I was like, if I'm afforded these opportunities where I'm able to connect people, let me do it with more with purpose
Mm.
than just by chance. And so that
nice.
kind of it became kind of like my motto. Like I always wanted to just like connect people and show them the importance of community.
Mm. I want to touch on how did you get connect to how did the music take place in your life, because you said not only that running was a big influence on you as well, which I want to get into, but what was it about the music that provided this space for you to either to create, to relate to it,
To
and also
vent,
to vent,
to
and also to now honing your craft with that.
So even at an early age, like if I was like 5, 6, 7, 8, around there, I remember just watching novelas with my grandmother, my
Mm.
aunts, and I would like watch groups like Menudo, or I would
yeah.
like watch Sábado Gigante,
Mm.
and I would always wish that I could be on those shows. I could be
Mm.
performing,
Oh.
and this is kind of ill, but there were like a lot of when growing up, there were like so many deaths in my family. So there would be like get-togethers in people's apartments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And and at that time, I really learned how to read Spanish and how to speak Spanish better
Mm-hmm.
because of the overwhelming um, uh, gatherings, the family gatherings,
Mm.
Mm.
and I would hear these things that they would repeat, and I think they're called novenas. I can't remember
Mm.
what it is. Not
Oh, like
Yeah.
novenas.
the
It's
prayers.
like a 7 day
It's like
prayer or
it's
something like
like
Yeah,
that.
a
yeah,
rosary.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
rosary.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be like 9 days or something
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I remember hearing that, and for me as a kid, that was fun for me. That
Mm.
was
Oh.
I wanted to be the one that was leading those things
Mm.
because I
Mm.
was hearing the chants come back,
Yeah.
right, and I was hearing them be repeated, and I was like, this is powerful. Like I sensed it, like it was like something that was very spiritual, and
Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
I used to ask my elders if I could be the one that could lead them, and if I could read certain ones, and that's
Mm-hmm.
how I learned really how to read in Spanish and how to speak in Spanish
Nice.
Mm.
better. And so for me, that was a form of performance. So at an
Ah.
Mm.
early age, that mixed with Sábado Gigante, mixed with just
The
being at
novela.
parties and my
Yeah.
families, like my family members would have parties and I would like dance for them or I would like sing for them. So at that age, I already knew that I wanted to use this platform for performing, for doing something where
Mm.
I would have the attention of a crowd.
Mm.
And so I started promoting parties when I was like 15 years old.
Wow.
I found out about party promoters, and I would put up
Mm-hmm.
flyers. I would put up posters, staple them to the light posts, and then once I was inside the club, I would ask the main promoter if I could introduce the bands or the people that were supposed to
Nice.
perform
Mm.
that night, because there was nobody introducing them. They were just like start.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so I started studying who was performing, and then I would have like a little spiel that I would do in the
Mm.
beginning, and then from there I was inspired to actually start writing my own lyrics,
Oh, I
because
was
Mm.
I
gonna
would like
ask you
hear
that.
what they were doing, and then I
Nice.
would start emulating different artists that I liked.
Mm.
Then I had a public access show called My Life Television, and I used to introduce people. I used to interview people. Um, I used to do like little skits in between the
Mm.
interviews,
Mm.
and that became my outlet.
Yeah.
And I was doing that. It would come on every Tuesday at 10 p.m. So that became like my
Mm.
thing.
This
So
is
all of
What
those things mixed together.
what
this
did that bring? What
oh
did that bring you? Like that being your outlet, as far as like you going after it, and then you also now putting in your own words into things. Like what did that bring you?
It basically gave me a voice. Like it gave me courage to know that I could do this, but
Mm-hmm.
on a bigger scale, right? Because now there was people locally that was seeing me on television, and
Mm.
it was a show that I was helping to produce. I was like, you know, doing the interviews, going to different places. So I was learning like the behind the scenes of how to
yeah.
actually make a show. And
Nice.
so for me, it was like that was my school. That was me
Mm-hmm.
learning in the street how to do this
Definitely.
stuff that I
Yeah.
enjoy doing. Something that I love to do.
Mm.
Not something that somebody says you should be doing this, or
Yeah.
you know, heard all my life is like, oh, you're so smart. You should pursue going to school and be, go be a lawyer, whatever. Like I always heard that from my family members. It was
Mm.
unfortunate, but they didn't really know what I was
Right.
really into,
Yeah.
or what I did. So every time I would go to family gatherings, as I continued to get older, would just be like, "What
Mm-hmm.
are you doing with yourself? What are you doing with your life?" Hold on a
Yeah.
second.
This so this, that's like really interesting for me because like
Yeah.
for me, I'll share the story. This is like a full circle moment for me, where uh you inspired me with one of the shows that you was on. I grew up in Brooklyn, Brownsville, Van Dyke Projects, and you was on the Lyricist Lounge show.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
for me, full circle, right? Because here I was looking at someone of Latino, seeing representation on there, rapping and doing sketches, and I was like, oh, this was one of my first times seeing something like that on television like that, and I was like, I was always into hip hop too, and then I even used that into my art, telling stories, and it was so inspiring to me to see that moment. It's like, wow, he did it. I can do it. Like I didn't know what was the journey to get there, but I just saw someone of my background on television now rapping and being funny, and I was like, and also saying some stuff too in that show that I was like,
That's
oh man, this is
deep.
so dope. So now here I am, cut to building my own legacy along with my wife too, and now here we are on the show, and you sharing that. So it was like a complete circle for me. It's like, wow,
You it brought you back.
it brought me back. So I want to thank you for that as well. Like not without you even realizing the inspiration that you were just being on that show, how it affected me, and of course I were
Many others.
many others too who saw that show. You know.
Well, thank you. Because a lot of times when you're in it, you don't realize who you're inspiring and
Yeah.
how powerful it really is. Access show, so that was like a graduation
Mm.
into something much bigger that was gonna reach people's homes.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought that I would even be, and we didn't think that hip hop would ever be, because if you think about it, at that time, people were still dabbling into different things. Like that was the first show that it was like a lyrical sketch
Mm-hmm.
comedy show, um, put in that platform. Hamilton's on Broadway. You got Wildin' Out and all
Mm-hmm.
of these other
Yeah.
shows that kind of like integrated, like mixed hip hop with theater and performance and stuff like that. But being one of the pioneers of that
Yep.
is big, because when people like yourself say that it inspired you, it just shows how important it is to use your platform for more than just
Yeah.
yourself, or for more than just to stroke your ego. It's
Yeah.
more
Yep.
about how can you inspire others to pay it forward. Because
Mm-hmm.
on top of me being on that show and having a platform, is what are you doing with that platform?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like what I always wanted to show people, is that it's an illusion when you think that you're so special because you got to be on TV or you got afforded this platform. It's like you got to take away from that and look at it more as a blessing for you to actually
Definitely.
do something positive with it,
Yeah.
because there's so much evil platform and such a responsibility. You have to do the right thing with it.
Mm. I
And so I
literally.
was
Yeah.
able to see those worlds and see
Mhm.
how that works, and not get jaded by it, but
Yeah.
more so get inspired to really like use it to reach out to
Right.
people and support people.
No,
Ha-
it definitely was a moment for me, and I know it was a moment for you. And of course, through
Many
the trials
others.
and
Mm-hmm.
tribulations of the industry that a lot of people go into, but at the end of the day, there's a bigger picture from it. There's a lot to take from it, and I knew the guy Master Fool. He literally lived
Oh yeah,
across.
for
Yeah, he lived literally right in the 383, the building right across from me, and just to see that and like, oh, I'm like, oh, he's one of us, and now he's on television doing something that was so hip hop, and then connecting to you was like, oh, a Latino person. I'm like, this is dope. And so yeah, man, thank you for sharing that, man, as well, because
of course.
that was definitely it's still inspiring because it's still it affected how I do things as well. I was like, well, I love hip hop. Let me incorporate that into my one man plays in my art. Like this is something that I love that spoke to me. You know what I'm saying? And I have a right to use it too because
Mm-hmm.
it's music. Music speaks to many people many different ways. So it was like the stamp of
Right.
approval, And then of course,
Word.
like you said, like when the Hamiltons and all that stuff came out, I actually will always say like, yo, I remember this Lyricist Lounge show. I felt like
Mhm.
it was one of the first things that I saw that I was like, oh wow, me and my boys in the projects watching this on our little 13-inch tube TV. You know what I'm saying? um,
I was gonna ask you. You mentioned, that you noticed how important it was for what you were doing, to be able to have an impact on others. And I was gonna ask you, how do you stay grounded and being true to yourself during this whole time? Because it seems that at a very young age, you kind of like things. It was like your path was already open, and you just took it and embraced it, and you were very strong and courageous and like knew about yourself at a very young age. So what kept you strong and grounded to keep open to your truth?
Definitely a lot of meditation. 'Cause to really peel away the layers, because
Mm-hmm.
of course as you grow up, you start, especially when you have a strong family that they kind of like try to instill their desires on you. And it
Definitely.
right.
happens a lot to our people.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like something that I battled with. Like my biggest cheerleader was my dad, but he
Nice.
passed away when I was 18 years old, and he was an artist himself, because he was that was his dream. And
Mm.
I kind of like saw how torn he was when he couldn't pursue his dream, because he kind of like had people that were worried so much about him, and rightfully so, because
Mhm.
the era that he was in,
Yeah.
there was like a lot of mob activity, and
Mm.
so his life was threatened a lot. He was a journey boxer,
He was a
so
what? Can you repeat that?
a, a journeyman.
Mhm.
Oh, what
So
is that?
yes, so that's like when you're not tapped as you're gonna be the next champion. It's
Mhm.
more like you're used for like quick tune-up fights for
Yeah.
other fighters that they look
Oh,
at as
okay.
that they're gonna be
Okay.
champions.
Mhm.
So they'll
Gotcha.
give you a fight with like 2 days notice.
Mhm.
Nice.
And if you're from the hood and whatever, you need some money, then you're gonna take the fight. And especially if you have
Yeah.
a crooked
Oh.
manager, they're gonna throw you into all of these fights.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
even though you have this dream that you want to be a champion,
Mhm.
you'll never get there because there's so much politics involved.
Yeah.
Mm.
So for me, that kind of like became the situation where I saw what it did to him. And so what allowed me to stay grounded is to kind of like look within myself and not
Mhm.
listen to others. So for him, yeah, he had to kind of give it up. And his mom were worried about his life because it was threatened a lot, like by the
Yeah.
mob, and he had to throw
Mm.
fights and that sort of
Wow.
thing. But he understood my journey. He saw, like, I used to record music, I used to play it for him.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else really understood what I was doing, but he did.
Mm.
Even though a lot of times he was, because he used that as his medicine, as a way to cure his pain that he was
Definitely.
feeling for not being able to pursue his dream.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so I all of that stuff. And I studied how passionate he was. He was me into the gym still at a later age of him, saying that he's gonna make a comeback,
Mm.
and
Mm.
having that dream still inside of him. So for me, it became a thing where I don't want to have any regrets in that sense. So I pursued what I felt was my calling, and it turned out that, yeah, I needed to pursue that, but
Mm-hmm.
not to the full extent where I was going to become this Hollywood
Yeah.
person. Because I did live in California for 2 years, and I was in
Okay.
Hollywood. I was doing the show out there. I was going on auditions, but I got a taste of what that really is like.
And you were
And
like, no.
so, yeah, no, because inside me, I knew that that
Yeah.
wasn't for me. I was
Mm-hmm.
like,
Same
I
here.
was like, if I can be afforded this platform to really do good, then that's what I'm gonna do. But I'm not gonna fall into this world that I see
Mm.
that is bad, because it's like
Toxic
people
Yeah.
get
and
caught up.
draining.
Yeah, people get caught in other people's shadows, and you
Mm.
start
Mm.
thinking that you made it because you were around such and such producer or this person,
Mm.
that person, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
you hear a lot of stories about people getting caught up in drugs and all of that.
Yeah.
And so for me, it became like a thing where that's what's going to help me stay grounded, because I know that all of this is fake, right? Like I got a taste of it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I could share that with people. So I felt like through music and through, doing the stuff that
Yeah.
I do and talking to kids, I could kind of like really be able to show them that there's another way, and they don't have up in that illusion
Mm.
of, you
Exactly.
know, making it with, the material things or everything else that's pumped on the media that makes
Mm-hmm.
people obtain all of these possessions in order to feel successful. For
Mm.
me, it was like looking in my inner mirror, peeling away all those layers, and
Mm.
really unlearning things and trying to find out who I really am,
Mm.
right? And that within that, I started amplifying the voice of my spirit, like my intuition
Mm.
that we all have innately,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? And minimizing that voice in my head, because the voice in your head is all those taught, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
to do a lot of unlearning. But that also stops you from going forward, because that's where self sabotage happens.
Yep.
Because whenever you try, the mind is always like it wants to survive, so it's going to tell you, nah, maybe you shouldn't do that. So if
Mm.
you minimize that and you start really amplifying the voice in your spirit, you really got to other than your spirit, because that's where all the answers lie. So
Definitely.
you could
Yep.
talk to people and see how there's different blueprints for different things that are done, but really your journey, that's your fate. That's,
Mm.
there's nothing, that has been done before like you, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it's unique to you. Whatever that, however you get there is unique to you,
Mm.
right?
What
There's like many paths.
how how
Mm-hmm.
how did you start
That's
learning about,
beautiful.
embracing your spirit and amplifying that voice and hearing it? Like, what was some things that was there a person that taught you this? Was you meditating? Was it a little bit of something from everywhere? Because I relate to a lot of the things we both
We
do, because
both do.
from our
Yeah.
spiritual teacher that we have, where she teaches us spirituality, and also that every one of us have a spirit that guides us in every lifetime, and you can hear the answers and send us messages through music, through signs, through whatever it is. And it is, society does call it intuition, but it's really your
It's
spirit
your
that's
spirit.
guiding you
Mm-hmm.
and protecting you, and also the angels, and paving this way. And it's up to you to hear it and to follow it. What made you get into tune with that? Was there multiple people in your life that
Or
taught you
reading
these things, or
books,
was it
or
reading
what was
books?
it? Yeah.
It was definitely a combination of all those things,
Mm.
right? Just kind of like learning about Islam, learning
Mm.
about Buddhism,
Mm.
just kind of like reading up on something like the Celestine Prophecy, where it
Mm.
talks about
Okay.
intuition, and it talks about different roads that you take, and it talks about how there's no coincidences.
Yeah.
Um, just, reading up on different philosophers, or
Yeah.
just kind of like yoga in itself, right? Like my first introduction to yoga was when I was living in California. And I wanted to do that because I was feeling all of these things around me, gut, which is also intuition and also your
Yeah.
spirit, was
Yeah.
telling me this is not right. Like
Yeah.
I don't feel this right. And so I started dabbling into that, and Kundalini yoga, which kind of like was an introduction to the chakras
Mm.
and more in tune with your spirit,
Mm.
and connecting through different holding poses, and seeing different colors that represent your chakras. So it was like all of those
Mm.
different things dabbling into.
Nice.
Um,
Mm.
and then so it became like a
Nice.
combination of
Nice.
all of that and
And then you
What?
asking
made it
questions.
what worked for you. What
Yeah,
worked for you
exactly.
from
Yeah.
that?
What?
Yeah.
When did the running take place in your life, and what did it fulfill for you? And because I know so.
And you're
Bef-
using it now to help
yeah.
the community. Like
Exactly.
it's
Because
all coming.
what did it help you
Yeah.
first before you started now building this community of everyone, and giving back to them? Because of course, with everything, it have to affect you first before you
Mm-hmm.
can share this knowledge, and then through that, while you're sharing the knowledge, you're also learning through everybody else around you too, and what they getting from it.
That's right. So running a connection to my dad. So my dad was a boxer. So
Mm-hmm.
he would take me to the track with him at an early age while he ran around the track. And I would think I was doing, and he was like quadruple lapping me. But I would have fun in that sense, right? And that's where I got the thing about nobody gets left behind, because he never left me behind. He will always want to, and he was, and that was always like an inspirational thing. And when I always look back, it's like he had a dream, just like a lot of us have dreams to do things, and it's tapping into that. And he was bringing me on that journey with him. And it just so happened that same park where he used to take me, the same track that he used to take me around when I was younger, I started doing an exercise group, and I started bringing people around to do like plyometrics and running drills.
Oh.
And that became, as as we joined forces. Mike Sace, who was the founder of Bridge Runners, he used to bring a couple of runners.
Ah, okay.
They weren't known as Bridge Runners yet.
Mm-hmm.
He would bring them to our exercise group, and then eventually that became what is now known as Bridge Runners.
Mm.
So it merged of different people from different walks of life that would get together at the track and do exercises. And then he brought some people that were into running, like merged, and then later on it became that name, Bridge Runners, which basically means that
Right.
you bridge runners, you connect people, you bridge runners.
Mm.
And now it's a worldwide movement. But running for me is meditation. Running for me is my connection to my dad. He's no longer here in the physical, but I could always connect to him when I'm running.
Mm.
He was always like, he used to like blurt out some funny sayings, or
Mm.
some funny things. And so whenever I run, I tap into that, and I do
Nice.
that to inspire people, and I ask people to come join us so nobody gets left behind. I'm
Mm.
always in the back of the pack recruiting people, because I know that it's the importance of supporting people, especially if they feel intimidated by doing something. A lot of those people that were first timers that were in the back of the pack with me have now ran marathons, have done
Mm.
Wow.
ultras,
That's
and
beautiful.
now it's a worldwide movement. So we got
Mm.
people in the former Yugoslavia that have gotten together, and these are two, like Zagreb, Croatia. Like, you talking about places like the former Yugoslavia where they were like warring with each other, but
Mm.
through the love of running, they were able to come together and be. They were inspired by what we were doing in New York City through social media. They saw that I was able to go out there
Wow.
and connect with those
Wow.
crews,
Oh,
and
wow.
they got permission to plant trees in a park, and each tree that they planted represented the different crews around the world. And BTG, Bridge the
Mm.
Gap,
Uh-huh.
the founding fathers of Bridge the Gap are the Bridge Runners. And so it was an homage to what we were doing.
Mm.
And
Oh,
so
that's
I
beautiful.
started noticing how powerful our movement is when I was able to go to another country and see
Definitely.
elders crying because
Mm.
they never thought that the youth would be able to get together because of the beef that they had
Mm.
when they were younger, and that continued on. But these two running crews were able to come together through the love of running,
Mm.
Wow.
and
That's
and
beautiful.
and
Oh
make a
my gosh.
change.
That's
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man.
amazing.
I wish you solved this Tupac and Biggie beef, man, because you like solved like
Mm,
you know what I'm saying, like you
amazing.
you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
like you mended a lot of things
Mm-hmm.
and brought a lot back to the community because it gave you a lot too as well. Like you saw the power of communication, peace,
Mm-hmm.
and let's solve this together. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a story, everybody has their own views, but together we could come to a conclusion that's in a positive way.
Yeah, and the way that the way they said that we inspired them, they
Mm-hmm.
inspired me because when I was out there, I was able to visit an orphanage. I was able to
Oh
give
wow.
to donate some
Mm,
funds to get some things fixed in the orphanage from them. I
Oh.
mm,
was gifted a beautiful drawing by one of the kids, and
Mm,
when I came back, I was like, man, this is so powerful.
mm,
Realizing
definitely.
and nobody's really using this for what it's supposed to be. And so I got inspired to do more, and that's where everything came about. Where I went out to the different run crews to
mm,
get them together to actually do runs for different causes, and we did
Mm.
stuff for Puerto Rico, and that was like during
Yeah.
Hurricane Maria. We did a big run in New York City. I was in Puerto Rico. We did a couple to raise funds
mm,
and just kind of started using my platform for
mm.
that, like the Run for
Yeah.
Justice, then the running to protest. When Coffee
Mm-hmm.
hit me up last summer, we started building and we just decided to get together and,
Mm,
and create Running to Protest. And it was
mm.
like one of the things that, you know,
Yeah. I love also I remember watching on Instagram when you went to Puerto Rico, but you didn't just go to Puerto Rico like I guess like the main spots. Like you
No,
went
you
deep
went deep
into the
in.
mountains and started
Yeah.
connecting to people that pretty much felt like they forgot about us. No one knows we out
yeah,
here.
In
They
the
kind of just
country.
yeah, they just gave
Mm-hmm.
up on us, but there were still uh worthy and surviving souls over there that absolutely needed help and they should get the help. And that was like beautiful for me to see. They're
Yeah.
like, wow, like just seeing the humanity and seeing people come together. But like you didn't have to go that deep, right? You could have just went into the
Closely.
central,
Yeah.
the main points of Puerto Rico, but you decided to go further. And that to me was man, that was a beautiful thing to see and very inspiring and um amazing, and I want
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you and whoever was involved in
For
that as well
doing.
for doing that, and also showcasing. It
yeah,
wasn't about like, hey,
Oh,
this is
I'm
what we're doing
here.
because we could.
No,
It's like,
you were
no,
really
we're here.
helping.
We're
Yeah.
showing you what actually is going on over here, and also the people that were forgotten.
hmm and there were very few people that were really doing. And we were inspired by a lot of those people. And to this day, I'm grateful that I'm connected to El Grito de Sunset Park.
Mm.
Dennis Flores, he raised like so much funds and tons and tons of supplies and food that went to the island. And that was one of the first people that we were able to tap into and ask for resources to be able to bring to the
Mm.
island because we were able to raise funds. Like we did like a couple of events in the city through the running
Mm,
Yeah, I
community.
remember.
And also, I helped to produce The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde, which was like
mm,
a
Oh,
theater
that's right.
performance
Yeah.
in downtown. And we did like 3 sold out nights, and we were able to raise funds that way. And so when we were able to connect with Dennis and kind of like get actual supplies that we could bring out there, we also asked for advice as different places that we could hit up
Mm.
because we were hearing about like all of this FEMA and all these people talking about they can't
mm,
get to certain areas. So we were able to connect with real people that were on the ground, and we did multiple trips. It was not. I went to Puerto Rico more times than I've ever been in my entire lifetime. I
mm,
probably
Wow.
went to Puerto Rico maybe on times, but after Hurricane Maria, I was out there like at least 20 times and like
mm.
Wow.
back and forth and for weeks at a time. So
Mm.
No,
Where it cut
so
off.
yeah, y'all hear me?
yeah,
Oh,
now
now
we
we
hear. Yep.
do. Yep.
Okay, yeah, now somebody was trying to
Mm.
call, unbelievable.
Oh.
So yeah, um, so yeah, so that's like you connect with people that are real, that have the same heart that you have, which
Yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
hard to come by, especially when you're talking about doing this kind of work, grassroots work,
Mm-hmm.
because so caught up in the ego that it's hard to even like connect and collaborate with people because they're so for themselves. But it's important, like when you find the like-minded people that have a good
Mm-hmm.
heart, to
Yeah.
continue to collaborate and show people that there is a better way, because it's really hard to come by, especially when it comes to this kind of work. Unfortunately, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
your organizations and people are all out for themselves, and it's hard to connect that way. But we're showing them that it's possible, and we're going to be doing some great things moving forward. So they're going to be hearing more about that.
And lastly, I just want to commend you also for another thing, the community fridge. That's like a hit. It's amazing that you and a couple of other groups have collaborated to create it. And I just wanted to say that that's another great thing that you guys have done for the community.
Yeah, thank you.
The,
Yeah,
the
it's
annoying
New
thing
York.
for that for me was like when they try to take it away. Like there was a place that tried to take the, not where you was at. There was another community
You're
fridge,
talking about.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
and I'm just like,
Yeah,
what?
well,
Like, come on,
I
man! Like
remember.
it's to like help people, like and
Mm.
families. Like
no,
when it comes to
that's why.
political shit like that, I'm like, have a fucking heart. It's just a fucking
No,
fridge.
yeah, that's why it's important to like have it in front of a area, or if you're gonna do it in front of a business, that the people that own the business are really for it
Okay.
and supportive of it. Because if not, it's almost like you're taking away from them, depending on what the business is too, right? Like
That's true. Yeah.
people at first they get caught up in the hype, and that's what happens. Some people do it for the hype, and then they leave it abandoned, and then that's what happens. Like it gets like either destroyed or people want to move it and take it away, whatever. And for us, it was like a thing where, I'm the community director at Overthrow. So I was able to continue the work that I've already been doing at Overthrow since before the pandemic, which we do like a lot of community events, a lot of art programs, anything that has to do with bringing the community together. So this was just an extension of that. And through the mutual aid work that I was already doing, I was inspired to do this plant-based community fridge because I saw the need to have healthy food that's accessible to everyone and that it wasn't being serviced to our communities. So that's why that fridge is so important and I'm so passionate about it. And I'm there every single day making sure that it stays stocked. And I haven't, how you say, or trusted anyone as of yet to be there alone, because I understand a lot of people talk a good one and they say they want to do something or they say they want to be a part of it and they're nowhere to be found. And what happens is, even if I'm like an hour after I usually am there and the fridge is empty, I'm like, what the hell? Imagine if I was not even around, this thing will fall. So it's something new. You're learning how to connect with the community. And then thankfully for me, Artists, Athletes, Activists is an organization that I decided to start putting in the forefront, because prior to that, I was helping a lot of other organizations. And I decided, but with this fridge, I'm going to use that umbrella. And I have a lot of good people that are around me that support me, that have been around to help me maintain this fridge. And so we do have plans to expand and do more things. And this is just, one of many. And it's kind of like an introduction to way more things that we're going to be doing in various communities and supporting various communities, not only in the city, but in other states and around the world.
Wow.
That's beautiful. Thank you for doing everything that you're doing, man, and with everyone. And I love Overthrow. I took some classes there with my brother Sergio Chicong. And that's my bro, and in the comedy game as well, and a good friend of mine. So he was a trainer of mine. So I always love what Overthrow represented to as well. And I didn't know you was. I mean, I knew he was a part of it, but I know you was like community director and one of the hot shots. So you and everything.
Yeah. Sergio's an LES native. That's my brother.
The segment we're going into is called Rapid Fire.
Rapid Fire was getting
quick
stuck
answers. So the first question is, what has been your biggest disappointment?
The biggest disappointment is when you're doing this kind of work and people talk a good one and you're like, man, you put your trust in them because you're like, wow, this is somebody that, I feel like they have the same ideas and the same passion, and they say they're gonna do something and then they don't come through. And then it's like they had toqueado, and then it's like, well, I committed to this, so I gotta make it happen because I gotta show people that it's possible. And unfortunately that has happened throughout this work. So that's my biggest disappointment, but it's definitely not going to deter me or stop me. It just shows me that in this world, no matter what facet, no matter what level you're at, there's always going to be people that are good talkers but not doers. And you can't let that deter you. You got to keep moving forward. And then you're going to find people that are going to support you and help you out, and you're going to be able to continue working the world.
Whatever's meant for you will be meant for you no matter what comes in your way.
Eso es.
Second question.
What single thing would improve the quality of your life if money's not an option?
If money is not an option,
Yeah, no material, no money.
Yeah.
no material, no money,
Yeah.
would improve my life.
Yeah. What
Mhm.
single thing would improve the quality of your life?
The quality. If my people are good, I'm always going to be good. So if I'm able to impact way more people, then that improves the quality of my life, because the
Nice.
quality of my life is based off of an ecosystem. So
Mm.
if I know that I'm able to support other people to better their lives, then that's already improving the quality of my life.
Nice.
Nice. What do you consider your greatest achievement?
Well, a greatest achievement, if I was maybe 20 years ago, I would say the Lyricist Lounge show, because I'm thinking in the sense of a platform that I have.
Mm.
But if I'm talking about right now, I'm saying this community fridge.
Mm.
And ironically, they both were born on February 7th.
Wow.
Oh,
Nice.
wow. That's my brother's birthday.
Nice.
Look at
Yeah,
that.
Lyricist Lounge was born February 7th, 2000. Our
Mm,
community fridge was born February 7th, 2021.
look
Mm.
at that.
What is
Wow.
the most important lesson life has taught you? This is the last question.
The most important lesson,
Yeah, that
Life
life has
has taught
taught
you.
you.
Yeah.
to stay connected, stay grounded, stay in tune. Don't get caught up in distractions.
Mm.
Mm.
Don't get caught up in the hype, and tap into your intuition.